check out the review on Off to the Movies on Anchor Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Off to the Movies with your host, Tony Saillant. Don't forget to subscribe to our Anchor Podcast or Spotify or wherever you find your podcast. Today we will review the film A Quiet Place, Part 2, starring Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy, Millicent Simmonds, Noah Jupe, Djimon Hounsou, and directed by John Krasinski. Now, I hope everyone that saw this film or is about to see this film viewed the first one, because Part 2 explains a lot of what happened in the original. Part 2 starts by flashing back to the beginning on how all of this started and the arrival of the crazy-looking monsters. I was a bit confused because I thought the story was going to be from the beginning, until 10 minutes later it jumps back where Part 1 left off. Oh yes, Evelyn Abbott, who's played by Emily Blunt, and her daughter Reagan, who is also played by Millicent Simmonds, and the son Marcus, Noah, Jupe. God, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Well, anyway, they are back. Yes, they are back in Part 2 and must continue the terrors, not just with the monster attacks, but with the outside world. Honestly, the film is not perfect, but the director gives you great sound and edits, that brings the film suspense to the max. The family now must fight more than the monsters, but society itself. When they're forced to venture into the unknown, they quickly realize cross paths will change society. It reminds me of The Walking Dead. You have this society is now faced making up their own law and order. The movie shows symbolism of the tail end of COVID-19 pandemic with powerful given images of a community together, hugging, sharing food, and gathering for a ball game. A great reminder of what is happening right now in our society, of the aftermath. A scene with Reagan, Millicent Simmonds, showing her pulling off a Johnson & Johnson first aid kit, and her brother, Marcus, who is played by Noah Jupe, pulling off the baby's mask as the two simultaneously grasp for air, fresh air. It's almost intoxicating. The man on island is played by Djimon Hounsou, which has a small part but an intense role, played very well. This movie is totally focused on sound and very little dialogue. An amazing scene between Emmett, played by Cillian Murphy, and Reagan, Millicent Simmonds, clearly demonstrates an interaction between someone who is deaf and someone who is not, but were able to get a message across. Amazing scene. Simmonds' character Reagan, who is deaf, both in real life and in the film, is definitely a powerful role model in the film and for the deaf community. For me, she is the star of the film. Amazing performance. The director is brilliant. Very brilliant. He brings a whole new language of sound in the film. Whistling wind, clanging metal, dripping water, etc. Amazing soundtrack of sound. Watching the ending of the film may be a sign that just maybe we will see another horror sequel, A Quiet Place Part 3, but I leave that up to you, the audience. The film is worth watching, very intense and suspenseful. Film is released by Paramount Pictures. It was in theaters on May 28th, 2021. So check it out, check this film out, and get ready to jump out of your seat. This is Tony Saillant, Off to the Movies. Until next time, don't forget to subscribe to our Anchor Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you have your podcast.